And that future that Calvin is talking about is very bright, as this defense had a great year last year. Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com joining me now here in studio. Let's talk about that defense, Robert, where the base of it, besides one or two players in the depth chart, was truly from that last staff before Bret Bielema got here. And really, this staff has done a good job of building them and helping them reach their potential.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they didn't, it's a different scheme. They had defensive ends, not these outside linebackers who are dropping into coverage sometimes. So they had to pick through who they had and adjust to that. So it has been interesting. They really wanted that one guy. They wanted Calvin Hart to be able to be there as part of that. And unfortunately, he's injured in the first game and missed the rest of the season. They brought him in to be the kind of linebacker they have. But they were able to fill the gaps last year and hopefully are looking to do the same this year.
Well, as we break down this defense, let's start at the front and work our way back. We'll start with the law firm, as Bret Bielema put it last October. Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph both stepping into big roles on that defensive line, both technically in their sophomore year. Keith has one more year of experience over Johnny, but what do you make of those two and how they might be able to perform taking on those starting roles this year?
Yeah, it's quite fascinating, and you see that across the entire roster of players that are sophomores. Like, haven't they been here 4 years? Somebody like Keith. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to have your defense led by two sophomore defensive linemen, and it is the truth. That's who they relied on. You even saw it last year in the games that Keith Randolph missed. There was a void there, and so having him healthy and having both of those two playing together, that's kind of the key to the up front of this defense. You want them to take a step forward. You want them to be a little better this year than they were last year, and I'm sure the coaches are thinking, man, if we can keep both of these guys around for three total more years, that might be really good for this program.
I know they both have their eyes on Sundays, and personally, I think they'll probably get there one day. They have at least shown the talent to. As we take one more step back in the defense, the linebacker room, two brand new starters. Calvin Hart did show out, like you mentioned, in that one game against Nebraska, but Tariq Barnes steps into a starting role as well that he's had to fill his previous years, but he's the guy this year, as well as Isaac Darkangelo, providing some depth. We assume that he won't be a starter, but there's still a lot to be decided, Robert. That linebacking room is looking like it's not going to miss a step from last year.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? That the three main guys that the coaches keep talking about are, one, a walk-on from Northern Michigan, Division II walk-on in Isaac Darkangelo. One is the transfer that Bielema found in his first month on the job in Calvin Hart. And then Tariq Barnes, who was kind of a late addition to the 2019 class. There was a lot of other linebackers in that class that got all the pub, and he was just kind of the add-on guy, and now he's the man. So it's an interesting assembly. And yeah, Tariq Barnes last year was really good. Illini fans might remember him from the Wisconsin game in 2020, the game that started so horribly for Illinois in the COVID game. And in comes this kid, Tariq Barnes, and he's this revelation. So he's been building on that ever since, and now it's his time to be the anchor.
Illinois loses a draft pick player at safety, Kirby Joseph, moving on. Someone who I don't think anyone had pegged as a potential draft pick at the beginning of this season. So there's going to be some new faces in the secondary, but it's also a position group right now that has a lot of depth.
Yeah, definitely. There's it's an interesting dynamic now with some of these freshmen and some of the redshirt freshmen from last year. For example, they brought in Keontae Curry, Bielema staff did, in February. It's after signing day, but he was still available. They brought him in, trained him in a safety role. Do they start looking to those guys now? I'm like, okay, we brought him in. He's our guy. We put him in there. Can we start to get minutes for him? Because it is led by the three seniors in the back, by Quan Martin, Sidney Brown, and Kendall Smith, who should be the one stepping into Kirby's role this year. So if they can build something around that, and you have a returning two-year starter in Devin Witherspoon at corner, if you can find that other cornerback, they should be really solid in the secondary.
Every position group has their coach back from year one with Bret Bielema, and that's similar on the offensive side of the ball as well. What do you make of that consistency for the defense, getting that same messaging back again, having everyone back from year one as they try to improve in year two?
We've talked about it for decades, it seems, that Illinois for 20 years has been trying something a little different each year. And maybe we'll add a fifth linebacker here, two outside, two inside, maybe a floater. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do two defensive linemen. Maybe we'll get a new safeties coach. There have been so many changes of try this, try that Yeah, consistency. What have we seen Iowa do? What have we seen Wisconsin do? Just stick with the same thing, recruit to that, and stay with it. So it's quite interesting how there's been, an emphasis on that this year of like, we're going to stay with this, we're going to stay with these schemes, we're going to stay with these coaches, and we're going to keep moving that way.
Primarily organizationally, it seems like there's a lot of consistency within the entire team. Would you say that's your viewpoint as well with Brett Bielema in year 2?
I would say that. I would say there, that's a point of emphasis. If we think all the way back to the original press conference with Josh Whitman introducing Brett Bielema, he talked about Kansas State, Iowa, and Wisconsin as 3 places he had coached and 3 places he had learned. It takes a long, concentrated effort of this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to build, we're going to stick to this. And I think that's what you're seeing is that they're trying to continue that. Didn't work out with the offensive coordinator last year. They made a switch there with the offense, but on defense, it's let's do this same thing. Let's lock up this coordinator for a while, and let's continue to keep doing the same things. The repetition is what will lead to success.
I think we've learned just in the year plus that we've been covering Brett Bielema, he's a PR guy. He likes messages. What have you made of just his messages about the team in his almost 2 years now doing this, the family and everything that he's trying to sell, staying in state? And where do you think that is right now with the program and what he said?
Yeah, I think he caught a lot of traction with the idea of building it around Illinois players. If you remember, the team poster in his first year is every Illinois player standing on the state outline at the center of the field to say, this is an Illinois team, we're going to build with Illinois people. I think that has really caught on. Obviously, everything around here points to wins. This is a fan base that has, okay, well, maybe Ron Turner, maybe it's Ron Zook, maybe it's Tim Beckman, maybe it's Bill Cubitt. Well, Lovie Smith will do it. There's so many buy-ins that the fan base, I think, is at a point of, like, prove it to me, show me you're going to win. And so that's the next step. Obviously, all these other things are great, and the pitch is great, and I think there's buy-in, but there have to be wins. There has to be progress. There has to be consistency, not just a single year of success and then everything falls apart. It needs to look like a program.
I would say on social media, specifically on Twitter, you have your finger on the pulse of the fan base, possibly better than anyone else for Illini fans. What have you made on just overall the fans' reactions to everything we've talked about, the consistency, the messaging going into year 2 of Brett Bielema?
I think there is definitely more fan buy-in than, say, Tim Beckman after his first year. It was a 2-10 year. Lovie Smith was a different kind of animal because it was like, hey, he brought the Bears to the Super Bowl. Now he'll turn around my college team. So I think there's a little bit of buyer's remorse there, if you will. Maybe we bought in too early. Maybe the second relationship will date for a while before getting engaged. That kind of a feeling. So I think there is that hesitancy. There will be that hesitancy with ticket sales. There will be that hesitancy with, you name it, merchandise or just program buy-in until can this be trusted? Is this something going somewhere? Because I've written about this many times. Illinois will have good years and then bad years and then good years. There's no real, this was better and then got better the next year and then got better the next year. And so that's the thing I think that fans are looking for. Show me it's something consistent and I'm in.
Famously, you don't write out your season predictions until the night before the first game. You're going to be doing it earlier than ever in Illinois history this year because
that's correct.
First game's on August 27th. So I'm going to ask you your season predictions in whatever form you want to give me. If it's win totals, if it's things to watch out for, what do you think? What are your predictions for this year?
I think the best way to say it is they lost a fair bit. They had these super seniors. They were very important to the program, having Owen Carney and Isaiah Gay there for 5 years, having Vidarian Lowe and Doug Kramer there for 5 years. It was very important to have, to build that first year on the backs of these, very mature, very experienced players. They don't have that much experience this year as they did last year. So typically you think of that as a step back. I would just say that my expectations would be a similar style, a similar type of season. So if you think about, last year, look, Penn State threw the reverse to their quarterback in the second or third overtime or whatever. He dropped the ball. If he catches that, Penn State wins. We're not even talking about a 5-7. We're talking about a 4-8 season. We're talking about like little minuscule things that could have happened that might have changed last season. You might have seen something different happen. And so because of that, we can maybe get tied up in record too much. What I would say is the expectation is a similar season. You lost some experience, but by bringing in more guys and showing this, you have a similar type of season. Maybe you do get blown out by maybe it's not Virginia this year, but you have another Virginia game where you burn the tape. Maybe you have a surprise upset on the road, that type of thing. But when it's all said and done, you say, you know what, this was a competitive team. That's my expectation is maybe somewhat surprisingly competitive once again.
All right, Saturday morning, you can get the full season
right.
predictions from Robert. IlliniBoard.com. You know where to check them out, Robert. Thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks.